What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Another Friday, another episode of Why Are We Bullish? We've got a killer panel this week. Three, we'll say technically, brand new guests on the show, although one of them, I wasn't feeling so well one week, and so we did a Spaces instead. But I'm very glad to have him on an official episode this week. Nonetheless, plenty to discuss, plenty of reasons to be bullish. We're going to be diving into them. Now, of course, this is live. Anything can happen. So I defer to my friend Bill here.
We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. And thing sucks.
If you have not already, like, subscribe, share, all those things help a ton getting this content in front of more eyeballs. I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.
Before we bring in our guests, let's take a quick look at where we are in the market right now. This is timechaincalendar.com. We're sitting at $27,155 per coin. A single US dollar will pick you up 3,683 sats. That number is a little bit lower than it has been for the past few weeks here. So again, the sats are slipping through your fingers. 92% of all Bitcoin have been mined. That's 19.32 million of them. And in terms of fees, we're sitting around, if you're looking for next block, 29 sats per byte. Even if you're willing to wait a little bit, 15 sats per byte, but it has been peaking up quite high. And why is that? Well, it's because the mempool is damn full. Average node, 300 megabyte cache for their mempool, and we're sitting at around 704 megabytes worth of blocks waiting to be confirmed. In fact, the mempool is purging anything below 3.67 sats per byte. So keep that in mind. Use RBF. Make sure you have a high enough fee to even keep yourself in the mempool. Shout out to sponsors of the show, HodlHodl.com. If you're stacking sats and you have a few priorities in mind, things like peer-to-peer trading, getting instant self-custody, and no KYC. You don't have to identify yourself in order to use it. HodlHodl could be for you. You can sign up with nothing more than an email address, be trading sats peer-to-peer in moments. I use it all the time. It's super easy. You can check out the link down below. I got a full tutorial. So yeah, HodlHodl.com. Check them out. Once you obtain your non-KYC sats, you might want to store it in some awesome hardware that is reliable and secure. And again, I love CoinKite and everything they're doing. The Cold Card Mark IV is an absolute beast. I've got a Lord of the Rings length tutorial on the thing because I dive into everything, all the details. So you can check that out. But they got tons of stuff over here. The tap signer, the sats cards, the block clocks, the open dimes. And coming towards the end of the year, they've got Cold Card Q1. That thing looks like a beast. Check it out. You can reserve it now. Anyways, coinkite.com. Use code BTC Sessions for 5% off. Now, if you're looking to go beyond just single sig into multi-sig and inheritance planning, Nunchuk has a badass new setup called Honey Badger. And this is like an assisted multi-sig thing where you, again, it's interoperable with things like Tap Signer and Cold Card and tons of other awesome options. It's walks you through every step of the way. Very easy. They have a just in case key to be a secondary signer for you. And beyond that, it has baked in inheritance planning so you can pass on your sats to your next of kin. My favorite thing about it, though, other than the fact that it's very easy to use, is it's also non-KYC, which kind of sets it apart from some of the other options in the space. You don't have to give up all your personal information to use it. So check it out. I've got a full tutorial on it. Lots of fun there. And last shout out of the episode, Start9 Labs sovereign computing solution. I've done a full video on how to use it. You can set up your Bitcoin stack, Bitcoin Core, Lightning, run things like mempool.space, join market, all kinds of stuff. You can host your own data, passwords, photos, files, all of that. You can run a Nostr relay. You can do all kinds of stuff. Check them out, start9.com. You can get the Embassy One for basic needs. If you want to basically be hosting your whole life, check out the Embassy Pro. It is robust as hell. And shout out to Start9. They pumped out some good updates this past week. With that, enough of my rambling here. I got to get my guests in. Very excited to have them. We've got Mick. we've got Nolan, we've got Anant. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here. Let's do a quick round of intros for anybody unfamiliar. We'll go down the line and we'll just do a quick who are you and what do you do? And then we'll dive right in. So, Nick, I'll go to you first. Who are you? What do you do?
So great to be here, guys. I've become a Bitcoiner also thanks to this show. So it's an incredible experience. So I'm Mick. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Geyser.fund, which is a Bitcoin and Lightning native crowdfunding platform. And through the platform, we really try to support and enable the world of this online economy of Bitcoin creators that are pursuing their interest in supporting the network and supporting the ecosystem. And we do that mainly through donations and reward-based crowdfunding. So yeah, that's Geyser. This is me. Great to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you, man. Long time coming. I figure you guys have been doing some awesome stuff. So yeah, excited to get chatting.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Anant, welcome. Glad to have you. Can you give yourself a little intro?
Absolutely. Thanks, Ben, for having me. I'm Anant, and I'm part of a team which has been building self-custody solution for the last 3 years. We started off with Hexa Wallet, which is now called Bitcoin Tribe. And our latest app, which we are very excited about, is Bitcoin Keeper, which is a multi-sig cold storage solution which integrates with a bunch of hardware wallets, rather signing devices. So yeah, pretty excited about what we do on a daily basis, and we'll keep building. That's me.
Awesome. And yeah, I've been seeing a bunch of updates with what you're doing with the Keeper. It looks awesome. I'm so happy that there's, again, people like you and the team building out these great solutions. I saw some actually back and forth interactions with you and Nunchuk online. You guys were kind of giving each other thumbs up for the work you're both doing. So I love to see, again, like companies that are, in the same area, being gracious and helpful to each other. And it's refreshing to see. So that's awesome.
See, the goal is the same, Ben, right? So the goal is to be, for Bitcoiners to have another good, a few more good multi-sig options.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are expanding the pie, everyone is going to benefit. The pie is too small right now. Bitcoiners are too small right now. So there's no point in like trying to, shrink the pie and try to take the bigger cut out of it or something.
Yeah.
We have to just go on and spread the awareness. That's most important.
100%. That's awesome, man. And Nolan, welcome to the show for we'll say this is your 1.5. We did a Spaces.
This is the time with a face.
Yeah, exactly. So welcome. Give yourself an intro for those that are unfamiliar.
Yeah, I helped program Bitcoin Magazine's show, Bitcoin 2023, May 18th to 20th in Miami. It's the biggest Bitcoin show in the world. I've been programming events in the space for a long time now. I was with CoinDesk when it first came to America. If people don't know, but CoinDesk used to actually be out of England when it first was founded in 2013. But then a man named Barry Silbert bought it in 2015 and brought it to New York City, the capital of media and all these things. So I moved down to New York and joined the early team and was around Consensus. Before that, I was trained as a lawyer and I worked in the Canadian Senate Banking Committee. And I got them to do a study in 2013. I got a bunch of money and I brought Andreas Antonopoulos and all kinds of fun people. And that's where I turned those skills. My job at the time was to get these studies going. I had fertile ground for it. I was studying the meltdown in the Senate Banking Committee when it happened, and I was really just a researcher at the time. But you do a little time in there, and then I got a study on FinTrack, FinCEN, and FATF, and all these guys, and that's how I learned about Bitcoin in 2012. And obviously, it blew me away. So by 2013, I was able to help put the study together, and that's how I translated that job of putting agendas together, putting narrative together and producing reports and then getting them in the news. I actually used op return script in 2015 when I tabled the report in Parliament. You can go look at all the parliamentary proceedings and you'll see that when we released the report, I got the Senate committee to actually pass the word, Senate committee believes Satoshi's invention deserves light regulatory touch, block 3.6, whatever. Before it was ordinals and there were still people angry because it was blockchain bloat back then too. So anyway, we did this fun publicity stuff. That's actually how I got involved with the best people to start. I also host a daily show every single morning, 8 a.m. with Bitcoin Magazine called The Breakup, where we...
There's fans already here.
The psychological conditions, the psychological engine that is the economy. I'm deep into the Austrian school about this stuff. You know, we teach economics with math and numbers. There's numbers, it's not math. That's not what's going on here. There's no math, right? Numbers, yes, you might be confused, but no math. Of course, it is a psychological engine, and Bitcoin's perpetuation and energy and motivation is just much higher than the other system. So I do that on the show every day. I just talk about Clown World and contrast it with Bitcoin, because I think that's the best way. You know, I did one today, like Hollywood, for St. Patrick's Day, the snake in the middle, and here's a little bit of the psychological engine sputtering and spinning and all discoordinated.
Oh, well, you have plenty of fodder for that stuff. Yeah,
well, from years of making content in the Bitcoin space, what I knew I didn't want to do if I was going to do a daily show was wait for news specific to the industry, because then it's like, but if I can turn my attention onto Clown World, I knew that the supply of stories was infinite, that they would never, ever, ever, ever run out of stupidity. And so I can run, I mean, I take an hour, the show lasts an hour every morning. And it only takes me an hour to come up with stories before I can.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's you could open really any news site and instantly have your entire episode planned for you, I'm sure. All right, well, gentlemen, we're gonna get rolling. Everybody watching, thank you for being here. Again, give this a share. Let's get a bunch of people in here and keep those chat messages coming. We'll be pulling them up and you know, I'll be peppering them in here as we go on with the show. Those unfamiliar with the show, this is Why Are We Bullish? Really simple premise of the show. All of us come with something that we're currently excited about. It can really be anything: a news item, an application, a video, something that we've seen, a personal experience. It really can be whatever we please. And so we're going to get to chat about what we're bullish on this week or in the last little bit. The format is simple as well. Somebody's going to drop a reason why they're bullish, number one. Number two, altogether, we're going to riff on that reason. We'll discuss amongst ourselves. And number three, we're going to rotate until all of us get a turn. So really simple. We go by the 3 R's: reason, riff, rotate. So I'm going to kick us off. I'm going to start off with my reason for being bullish. And so my reason for being bullish this week has to do with what I'll say is a continued realization of a lot of different people, whether it be individuals, people in positions of power, people in government. They're seeing the cracks in the system. They're starting to kind of at least question it, question our institutions, question what we've been told about how the system works and why, and in particular in and around, you know, the Federal Reserve and the Treasury and our monetary system as is. And so I wrote a few notes of some examples that I've seen recently that I found amusing. And they're around Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen. So there's been a few in the Senate. There's been a few kind of question periods where they're asking them about various things that have been happening in and around the economy. So there was Yellen. She was speaking to Lankford, and he was talking about he was giving scrutiny around what happened with the bailouts in the banks, or you know. It's not a bailout, but nonetheless, scrutiny around their treatment of Silicon Valley Bank and so on and so forth. And he was asking, well, what are you doing to prevent, you know, depositors, large depositors, from fleeing all of these smaller banks and just going to the large banks, just taking their money and basically consolidating power further in a few. Because you're willing to bail out depositors because they're too big to fail. So why not go to the ones that are too big to fail and have your money 100% insured? So basically, that preferred banks are fully covered. And she didn't really have a good response or answer to that. Johnson was asking, again, Janet Yellen about deficit spending in the coming years, how the deficits are looking to take us from, I think we're at around 32 trillion up to around 50 trillion in the next decade is their projections. So he was asking, are you at all worried about, one, who are you going to sell that debt to, given that it's riskier and riskier over time? And two, what is the rate of compensation that you're going to have to pay out for that? Meaning, what kind of interest rate are you going to have to pay on all this debt for somebody to take it, given that it's riskier as time goes on? There's also some fun back and forth between Jerome Powell, one between Elizabeth Warren, who, you know, has shit takes on Bitcoin, but I still enjoy, you know, when she gets to grill a banker or in this case, a central banker. She was grilling him over basically what a shit position he's in. Well, one, that their actions have not really materially reduced inflation, not near as much as they hoped it would. And then two, she was talking about their targets in terms of, oh, we're going to raise interest rates until we get unemployment up to a certain level, basically raising it by 1% over the course of a calendar year. And she said, well, that projection means that about 2 million people will be out of work. What, are they just shit out of luck? And he was kind of like, well, I mean, that's not kind of our goal, but, you know, we want to, again, not great answers, because the answer is that's the only lever that they have to pull in that regard. And then she also asked, hey, in all instances of unemployment going up a single percentage point over the course of a calendar year, how many of those 12 times that has happened in the past did we avoid a recession? And the answer was 0. And so basically just poking holes in exactly his actions. And then Masto also talking to Powell, asking about why 2% inflation. And the answer was more or less, well, it's an agreed consensus amongst bankers because that's the number, and that we all need to believe it will be 2%. We have to believe, because that's then what will happen. So my takeaway from that one is that inflation is like Tinkerbell. As long as you believe it, she can fly. And as long as we believe it, we will hit 2%, is kind of what he was effectively saying. So my main takeaway from all of this is people are finally starting to question the how and the why about our system. They've basically gleaned that a few people get to pick and choose what's important and what's not. The little guys are basically not on a level playing field. So if you're a community bank versus like the big four, you know, that's fully insured depositors versus your shit out of luck. Some individuals are effectively collateral damage, like the 2 million jobs. There's really no rhyme or reason to our targets on inflation. Really, it's a number that everybody just kind of decided on. And everybody's stuck between a rock and a hard place. There's no way out. There's no good options in which there isn't problems that arise from it. And so, I mean, to quote Drew Carey, everything is made up and the points don't matter. And I think people are kind of starting to see that, and they don't know what to do next. But I'm happy to be in a room with a bunch of people who I believe have come to the solution, at least the solution in which we can opt out into. Yeah, so that's why I'm bullish, because people are starting to see that there's a lot of bullshit, and that maybe the way we're doing things currently doesn't quite make sense. So I'm going to open it up to you guys, allow you to jump in, comments, questions, thoughts that you have on it. Anybody can jump in. Go ahead.
Is it not like a fun show going on there? It's something that we have kind of probably imagined the script of, and now it's like playing off. So it's interesting, it's funny, it's sad all at the same time. Because we know the solution, there's hope. Because we know people are going to hurt, there's hope. There is, like, you know, a bit of sadness, but it's essentially what's going to be. So yeah, very
The
very
sad-
very happy to be alive at this time and, you know, witness all this.
I saw a lot of people commenting on the sadness aspect of it this week, and I agree. We don't want to take the Schadenfreude is Bitcoiners don't revel in anyone's misery. However, when you make predictions and they come true, and then they're a little bit funny, like watching Janet Yellen try to explain, like what I found striking about the Janet Yellen thing is that she wasn't prepared for the question. She wasn't prepared for the most obvious question. Is there going to be bank consolidation in this? Because there are now 2 tiers of banks in the United States. She sat there with the same dumb look on her face as when Bitcoin Sign Guy targeted her with the Chiron. Remember how he did it, right? It's not just that he did it. He got her when it was the Chiron under the screen was Janet Yellen is opposed to auditing the Fed, right? That's when he targeted. So whether it was lucky or not, I don't know. I've met Bitcoin Sign Guy. He's a great guy, and I've shaken his hand. And I continue to believe that picture will go down in history as like one of the most important pictures of the whole era that we live in. So Janet Yellen with her face again, sitting there like, what are you talking about? Like just being completely unprepared. Yeah, there you go. She had the same, like, what's going on here face. But I will say, Ben, you missed one. Right. And then, so the laughing thing, okay, we just have to be able to, because like even the woke bank part of it, right? The banks were giving all this money to social causes and they didn't manage any of their own risk, right? And then everyone calls Bitcoin bad for this and that. Well, what about just being a banker? What about doing your job and not worrying about what style points go into your ESG rating, and what about your bank rating? What about that, right?
Yeah, and connected to that, maybe I can jump in here, but the funny part is I don't know if you guys read Lynn Alden's piece about what the hell happened, right? And it's not anything you'll read on the New York Times or et cetera, of course, right? But the point is that the reason why they failed is because they took the safe bet. They bought bonds at 1 point something interest rate, or even less, at 0.5. And then the Fed raised interest rates at the highest level in history. In history, it went from almost negative to like, I don't know exact number, but it went up like 4 to 6% overall in the last 12 months. And that's why they went bankrupt, because the value of their bonds was lower than the currency of the bonds, and so they were basically at a loss. So they failed because they bought government bonds. They didn't fail because they bought Bitcoin. Right? Yeah, it's insanity. It's really, really interesting to think about that, and that does make me wonder. I wonder, like, did the Fed know about that? Like, did they know that by buying bonds and raising interest super high, some banks would go bankrupt?
Interest rate risk is a real thing. So how can they not? You can't make the excuse you didn't know about interest rate risk. If you're into banking, now you haven't had to deal with it in 40 years because it wasn't a thing for 40 years. But if you talk to any banker over the years, interest rate risk was one of the main things they managed for. Now, listening to them all, because they're complicit, the transitory thing has become a wink, wink, you're an idiot for listening to us. Now, everybody in this room knew they were lying. Everyone should have known they were lying. The people at Silicon Bank should have known they were lying. Everyone should have known transitory was a ruse. But that's how far the game has come. It's come to the point where you're supposed to know that the things they say are not exactly true. And if you don't act on them being not exactly true, you're the idiot holding the bag at the end.
Totally.
And in the end, the whole thing looks exactly the same as FTX, or the scammier version, as Silicon Valley Bank and Signature and all these other ones, in the end, kind of look similar to the Terra Luna fiasco of a year ago, when they had that Bitcoin-backed stablecoin and they were taking deposits and pumping it into their shitcoin to get, I can't keep track of what the Luna and the Terra and what was happening. I know there was a shitcoin and I know there was a stablecoin, and they were taking stablecoin deposits for their algorithmic stablecoin and using it to pump the coin as also part of the collateral. And obviously it was the dumbest thing that ever happened and it didn't work. But that's more or less the interest rate risk scam that they got caught in at Silicon Valley being transposed to the shitcoin space. And we're supposed to see these things as different somehow because Janet Yellen is involved in one and not the other. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But Ben, you missed one. Yellen, terrible. And I agree with what the commenter said, right? Yellen, the bank is safe. Ain't a good look, right? But you missed one. And that was watching the dementia shuffle of the president. The so-called leader of the idea of him as the leader of the free world is now, that's another one of these things that we have to laugh at. Like it's funny, right? Watching him that he couldn't even open a door when he came to do his press conference and say the system is safe. And then he couldn't walk out the door. He couldn't take questions, for God's sakes. And he can't open a door. So the person who can't answer the most obvious question, the person who can't answer the reason why everyone is there in the first place, the 2% rule, the 2% interest target, and then the person who's supposed to be home, the president of the United States, is the stupidest one of them all. And so having these people say words is the best thing we can do. Because think about it, the fiat system, fiat means declaration, right? It means words. The motivation of the entire fiat system has to be the words they use. That's why they got to coax it. That's why you're always wondering, what did Powell say? And oh my God, what words were used in the press conference? And all these people sit there and monitor the market when these guys speak and all that stuff. So in the end, watching the people who are the ones tasked to say words that conjure the system higher are, I mean, let's be honest, if we had to draft our most, the people as Bitcoiners we wanted in those roles, I can't think of better people. I can't. Yeah. I couldn't come up with a better list of people. It's a godsend that they're there, right?
Nolan, you sound a lot like an accelerationist.
Well,
accelerate. Let's.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, it's somebody made a good point. So anybody that doesn't really know the term accelerationist as it pertains to Bitcoin, there's a group of Bitcoiners that kind of believe that ripping off the Band-Aid might be the best approach, in that if you're in a, so somebody used this metaphor. They said if you're in an abusive relationship, or if somebody you loved was in an abusive relationship, you wouldn't want them to continue down that path and see if they can work it out and try and find common ground and everything. No, you'd want them to just clean break, pick up the pieces. And some people are saying, well, if we think that the implosion of kind of all this stuff is inevitable at some point in time, and that pushing and kicking the can down the road means a larger and larger blow up, why not try to accelerate that? And so a lot of, some people have taken it to the point where, like, I want to say in jest, but like not in jest. Like, if here in Canada, there's people that are like, oh no, vote Trudeau back in.
Oh yeah,
we want that because he's
Fetterman in America. Fetterman, we want Fetterman. We want to see if we can get the IQ a little lower than Biden. There's a little room downwards.
Yeah, yeah. It's. I
More
mean,
printing, really. More printing. Just bring someone in that prints more, just so we can get it over with.
Yeah, yeah. And so like I sympathize with that line of thought, in that I mean, for myself, kind of in my head, I'm like, well, it would be nice to have that transition, in that I feel like I get it and I can use that opportunity to stack more sats and kind of get myself set up a little bit better, and that the people that care and take time and the people that you care about, you can go and kind of, hopefully, as more and more cracks show, at least get them on that arc before shit hits the fan. That would be my main reasoning for delay, would be getting my friends and family members to fully understand how bad things are before they're too bad to deal with. But I also understand we can start fixing things when everybody realizes they're irreparably broken.
Yeah, I think it's a make-believe world right now, and only people who are like, the IQ is going low, right? So to run the make believe world, so to make sure that this clown world is going on, it's very, very important and that the IQ is lower and lower. So definitely something which will keep going on until there is a solution, until there is an escape hatch. I don't know what that is.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we're in for that kind of long haul where obviously the system as it is and the people that have interest in it, which is kind of most people to a degree, would be hurt quite badly by a sudden implosion. And so I think we're in for that long haul where even if the system as it is hurting you and you don't understand kind of why, you'll still work to defend it because it's all you know, and you think that you have to fix it in order for things to get better rather than just leave it for something else. So yeah, I think unfortunately we're going to be seeing the can kicked down the road in a variety of different ways. Even if shit were to implode entirely, I feel like you'd get another fiat minded solution in the interim because most people aren't ready to grasp that we need a complete 180 from the way things currently are. I don't know.
I think it's like Stockholm syndrome. So
Yes.
people who are like they just don't know a solution exists outside of it. So they just want to do better at it. Just make sure that they themselves are doing better at it. But it's not going to last.
But it seems like every solution is leading to more centralization, like Ben, you were mentioning, right? The consolidation that's happening in the banking system, right? It's almost like when things go wrong, the only solution ever that seems to come up is more concentration of power, more consolidation, more authoritarianism.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me, and I think people will start seeing that. And on one hand, it's bullish. On the other hand, it's scary because all this consolidation, to my mind, it seems to be leading towards the inevitable kind of CBDC world, right? The inevitable, like, one money, like, governed by the one ring to rule them all, so to say, the Mordor type of world. The ring that governs everything, right? That's the CBDC versus the only alternative, which is the most decentralized alternative, is Bitcoin. And perhaps as shit gets really bad, people will start seeing Bitcoin for what it really is, which is the only alternative to this tyrannical system. So yeah, on one hand, it's sad and scary actually, and then on the other hand, it's hopeful because thank God we have this Noah's Ark.
Yeah, I kind of view it like as we go through any major shift, especially like in relation to technology, there's always people that have been set in their ways and learned only kind of one way of life, kind of get upended from that position and have to kind of rebuild and change. I mean, look at, again, the Industrial Revolution. That changed a lot, and a lot of people, their lives were never the same again. But you probably wouldn't necessarily say you want to go back pre-Industrial Revolution. And I think, again, we're seeing a lot of this with automation right now. We're seeing like the pushback of like, well, no, we got to defend our jobs. But like, do you? Like, if you can have a machine do something a million times more efficiently than a person, or okay, 10 times more efficiently than a person, why would you not want to do so just for the sake of, like, you're not tilling fields with a bunch of manual laborers right now. And it would be silly to say, let's preserve those jobs because people could be working them instead of this single machine. So I think that maybe we should look at it in that way, as this will greatly increase the quality of people's lives, but it will be bumpy on the way to getting there. So I think,
and just quickly on that point, I think it's such an important point, right? So because the central bankers, they'll start putting out the UBI system as a sort of, save your jobs and give people money as a response to the fact that people are going to be losing their jobs because they are, right? But instead of saving jobs, why don't we start saving savings? Why isn't savings the answer? And which it is, right? Which is what Bitcoin offers. It's like saving is the tool through which people can retain their sovereignty, their integrity, their freedom, their well-being, even though they might lose their job, because it's the deflationary currency that Bitcoin is.
Yeah.
A bit like what Jeff Booth mentions, right? That's a interesting point.
Yeah.
I noticed a comment there, and it's in the theme of what we're talking about, people being set in their ways and it being difficult to change. There are predictions out there that the logic of violence will be altered by the separation of money and state. We hear all those conversations. But another motivation, it's not just violence, it's not just fear. Fear is the biggest motivator and will absolutely get people to change their entire worldview within seconds, right? It is one of those rare things that can actually induce that. So the fear that's around the economy does have that potential. But another aspect is the prestige, right? Prestige can be just as motivating. And the prestige institutions of the American system are such trash and garbage now after COVID and all of these things. We've understood that follow the science is the dumbest thing you can say. There's nothing dumber out there in the world today than to say that, right? If you're still saying follow the science. Now, I don't know shit about vaccines, the COVID, I don't care, right? But follow the science, I know, is not the way to go, right? Follow the money, and you're going to find something out about COVID and what you should do and how you should manage your risk and all of those things. Follow the money predicts much better than follow the science. And because follow the money tells you about incentives, it tells you about what's going on, and all this stuff about politics in America and the saturation of politics in the American system and in many other countries, but it's particularly bad in America. The psyops are just that much more potent and that much more targeted and that much more saturated in our lives, more money or whatever it is. The whole edifice of prestige, the whole idea that you went to an Ivy League school and then you bounce back and forth between government and the industry you regulate and you ding, 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 that's done now too, right? What we have learned as Bitcoiners and the amount of predictions we've gotten right means that we're kind of all still at the table here. And despite all the chaos, we're sitting around getting healthier. We've shared all this information about eating, about lifestyle, about optimizing these systems and that. And we have a community. I never felt lonely in COVID, never, not once, because of all you beautiful Bitcoiners. And it means that we're still here, right? Everyone else who played these prestige games get knocked off every one of these scandal cycles. Look how many scientists get knocked off because of COVID. Look how many economists get knocked off because of this and that. Look how many of the Wall Street bros that thought we were stupid got knocked off because guess what, right? You didn't understand interest rate risk anymore, buddy. It's like the basic thing in your job. So the prestige aspect of it is an important factor too. And the way I see, I think UBI is inevitable, right? I don't want to see people dying in our streets ever. I just never want to see it, right? As a human being, I will never live with the survival of the fittest mindset. We're not animals, for God's sakes, right? No one is dying, not on a Bitcoin standard, not even in the way we have this convoluted system today. So I still think there will be, they call it fiat or political money. I think there will be something like political dollars for people who can't unplug. And it's going to be the same as food stamps and EBT and all that. Just the difference is there's going to be a feedback loop now. There's going to be a reference. You're going to be able to understand what it is, how much there is, how much you budget it, and where it goes. You're not just going to be like, well, we need $25 trillion for that. And it doesn't matter if I'm unhealthy, I'm the health minister because I knew somebody and blah, blah, blah. So you're going to maybe start seeing fit people who are in charge of health, right?
That would be so weird.
It would be crazy. You might start seeing people who are like, maybe America should think about its diet a little more than the blood-sucking pharmaceutical industry. And so you're going to get all these ancillary conversations. And I think there is going to be a lot of prestige there. And Bitcoiners are already wearing it simply because we are not having to readjust every 2 minutes, right? We're in the same world we imagined in 2014. We didn't know it was going to be COVID, but we knew there'd be money printing, right? We didn't know why there'd be money printing. We knew it would happen. We knew the central banks would start chasing their tail around, and we'd be in a situation like this. And so here we are. And how much adjusting do I have to do? Not a lot, right? And now I have sympathy for the people who held on and didn't adjust, and I'm still here trying to give people advice and say, well, this is why I knew it was coming, not because I had special information, just because this was going to break. So the prestige part is going to be there, and it can, help us change and help the world get better. And we've broken the old prestige model already. So that's the good news, right? And we just have to show that, maybe knowing your own farmer is kind of prestigious because I don't have to pay that much for eggs, and I don't have to wait in line, and I have great steak, and I have great this and great that. Everyone should have that, right? And everyone can have that. But those are the things that are now currency. Right?
Yeah, we're going to see some interesting change. I mean, it's interesting watching again Bitcoiners as a whole have this entirely different kind of separated from the mainstream set of values, as it's like the underpinnings of a new society, but it's distributed throughout the current one, and it kind of proliferates locally and then builds from there. So very excited to see the changes coming down the line, and I'm very excited to see, again, calling back to the original kind of discussion point, people realizing that and starting to kind of clue in that at least there's an indication that there's cracks showing in the system, and maybe it's not as geniusly put together as initially thought. So I want to have time to get to our other topics here. So I'll put a pin in it there. I have no doubt that we'll be kind of touching on these topics again throughout the episode, but we're going to do a rotation. Again, just want to say, everybody in the chat, keep the messages coming. Also, since we started the show, by the way, the price is now at $27,700, and Yellow says, you're welcome, because he's always definitely directly responsible for any green candle we get.
Weekend pumps. We love them. Weekend pumps.
Yeah.
So the best kind.
Yeah.
Never stop believing.
Yeah, so don't stop believing. Yellow is here. He declared the end of the bear market on December 23rd of last year. So thank you, Yellow. Much appreciated. Everybody owes him a debt of gratitude for that. And with that, let's continue the conversation. I'm going to give it a rotation. We're going to jump to Mick now, and I'm just going to cue you up with a simple question. Why are you bullish?
Let's do it. So, I'm very much head down on work lately, and what I'm seeing in Geyser by working at Geyser is just this plethora of Bitcoiners that are building shit and doing stuff, and that's so thinking about it quite a bit, and I think what makes me most bullish and what is most underrated that is happening right now is this trend of Bitcoin creatives emerging. So I mean, by creatives, I mean people like artists, right? Street artists, trading card creators, filmmakers, comic book, designers and writers. There's this plethora of creators that are, that are in the process of, that are like sprouting all over the world. And so our new kind of Geyser landing page kind of shows you a little bit more clearly now what's trending. So you can see the trending projects within Bitcoin education. So these are the projects that have received most funding in the last week for all these different categories: Bitcoin culture, and Bitcoin community. And so actually, maybe if you go to Bitcoin culture, you can see the See All tab there, and you can see all these different projects that have to do with creatives, kind of right. So you have Bitcoin board games. You have Maxis Club, that is basically a comic. Of course, you have the Yellow plushie, which I think btcsessions couldn't resist as
Oh,
well, right?
I could not. As a grown adult man, I fully threw my sats directly at getting a yellow plushie, and it will be adorned back here on my shelf when it does get made and it arrives. But
Amazing.
yeah, it's great.
That's right. So these are, I think, the unspoken heroes of Bitcoin that are creating all this content. And the particular reason that I'm bullish is because it's actually be interesting. If you go to Dirty Coin, they just launched a trailer which is pretty cool. But then if from here you can also navigate to other films. So if you go to the films tag and then tap that,
Yep.
yeah, so you can see all the other Bitcoin films that are being created, and there's quite a lot happening. And films are really the bridge to, like, they're really a form of education that is like really distilling a message in visual form. You don't even have to read a book. You don't have to read the white paper. But these are people that are creating this incredible content that will kind of spread like wildfire. So obviously, you guys know between two ASICs, but you have the Trust documentary is going to be very, very good, by Jamie King, who did This Machine Greens, The Fight for US Dollar by Pierre Corbin. And there's quite a lot more. And a lot of these have launched already, but there's quite a few more like Trust, Dirty Coin, and a few others that are yet to launch. And I think this is what can take Bitcoin, just encapsulate the message, spread the message better to the world, like much more clearly. And so to help spread the word a little bit, this is the other thing I wanted to mention. And if you go to the main Geyser page, if you go to the landing page, you'll see that we partnered with Bitcoin Film Fest, which is a Bitcoin Film Fest taking place. The first bit that should be working. So yeah, if you click on the featured grant, this is a partnership that we have with Bitcoin Film Fest, which is in Warsaw in Poland, and it's the first ever Bitcoin festival focused on exclusively Bitcoin films. And so what we're doing here is that we've partnered, we've managed to rally up some anonymous Bitcoiners to help us donate a little bit more money. Also, we're putting some of that money as well. And Orange Pill app has partnered with us as well. So we accumulated 10 million sats altogether, and we're just donating it to these films, right? So the question though is, how do we distribute the funds? Well, the community decides, right? So the community votes by sending sats, and one sat equals one vote. So you can vote if you've liked some of these movies like Human Bee, etc. You can donate them some sats, and this will essentially grant them the ability to get closer to basically redeeming some of the funds. And sats are distributed, the funds are distributed proportionally to the amount of votes that they received, to the amount of sats received. So it's trying to kind of create a bit of gamification around it. But the point is to spread the message about the importance of Bitcoin films, how important they are, support Bitcoin films, support Bitcoin culture, and at the same time have some fun with it. So there will also be a non-monetary prize. Will be an actual 1 or 2 awards, a bit like a Grammy award for Bitcoin films. And this is going to be decided by the community. So imagine having a Grammy that you can vote for. Like it's not a thing in fiat world, but in Bitcoin, we let we distribute the decision making. So yeah, I'm particularly bullish about culture, creators, movies, because they will be the ones that will be spreading the message, signal more clearly. So yeah, love to know what you guys think.
Yeah.
So, Mike, are you saying that you're building a parallel culture while there's a parallel money out there? Is that what you're doing?
Well, we're just the platform, but Bitcoiners are doing that, and we're just sort of helping kind of light the fire a little more.
No, it's amazing. I just wanted to say it's really nice to see like this culture and you being able to see it all on one page, because yeah, money is one part of it, but if you can't tell the story properly, it doesn't go anywhere. Numbers travel lesser and fewer miles than stories. So having stories, having a culture, having a society, even having an economy in terms of helping these guys out is as important as the cryptography behind what we do. So great work, guys.
I'm one of these creatives. I've written a book. I started it in 2015 called Satoshi Wedding Murders, and it's all about AI and Bitcoin, and it's a simple murder mystery, follow the money type of thing. And here was the problem though. I really wanted to distribute it using technology from our industry. And of course, the book is set in the future. So Ethereum people would always ask me, why isn't Ethereum involved in the story? And I said, well, it's set in the future. They would sit there.
You just sold the book, my friend.
So, no, but here's the thing. But what I will say, and this is the more exciting thing that I see coming. So, as someone who's programmed events, one of the things that I thought of, like a system I use to know what content should come and I should put in, especially when I was doing Consensus, which is a much bigger and sort of broad event. But here's what I noticed, right? The original class of Bitcoiners were the cryptographers. We can all admit that. That's all the truth, right? The cryptographers were waiting for cryptographic-based money. They were on the mailing list. They saw it. So they were the first at the table. And they quit their jobs to do this, right? They were already quitting their jobs in 2010 to work in Bitcoin because they couldn't get it out of their mind. Then the political people came next because of the context of Occupy and the financial crash, and the libertarians suddenly saw a merger. So that's how I got involved. I saw the political angle, people in politics told me, and I was like, oh shit, that's what we need. But then the first generation of non-sentimental people came, the Wall Street people, right? And we love the Wall Street people. We need the speculators. They're great, right? But what was neat was you saw human capital leaving jobs to do this thing. Real people were leaving jobs to do this thing. And then all of a sudden in 2014, when the Pepes started, the real original rare Pepes, one counterparty and everything started, and they were creating these things, suddenly the creatives were indeed leaving their jobs to go into what was at the time only Bitcoin. Now it bugged the hell out of me, because these were another non-sentimental generation, right? They were like the Wall Street bros. They weren't like the cryptographers and the political people who were sentimentally bound to Bitcoin and had the sort of defense mechanisms against the speculation and the tech. It's the fast thing, fail fast and break things. It's going to be so awesome. It's all about transactions per second and blah, blah, blah.
That tech agnostic, right?
Yeah. So, right away, when I was programming the event, all I knew was I see human capital peeling off. We got to do some content for them, right? We got to find a way to get these people engaged. And Bitcoin didn't get that energy, and the energy was real, right? And seeing that energy that was helpful, creative, going into useless things that were not going to work out, didn't sit right with me. I didn't like it. And no, I'm not saying we need a protocol, some technical change, Bitcoin, welcome the creatives. That's not what I'm saying, right? I knew something would happen, and that ordinals have happened the way they have, especially with the burnability of crossing over from the Ethereum world that we've seen. We're seeing a lot more people realize that, what we already did in that last market wasn't exactly what we're after. So now that these creatives, and that they've already gathered in mass numbers, now that we can start gathering that energy into Bitcoin, I think is a great thing. So I know one of the people who has gotten a grant as a regular, comes in my show and we chat all the time, Bitcoin Graffiti. And he's got a great story where he's adapting Wizard of Oz. What I said recently just about the UBI and Bitcoin coexisting, the bimetallism of the story behind Wizard of Oz, of course, is bimetallism, right? It wasn't ruby slippers in Frank L. Baum's book. It was silver slippers. It was silver on gold. And the politician, of course, do something for me, go get the witch and I'll do something for you. And then, he's behind a curtain and you get it, right? So he's adapting the whole story through Geyser to be a Bitcoin version of it. And I look forward to that greatly, because that's what you want to see. Just as you said, Anand, the idea of the creatives telling stories is going to broadcast Bitcoin faster and further than anyone out there saying it's actually a decentralized money system, and decentralization is really important. People actually, so it's everything, right? It's everything. That's why I wrote the book. And now that I can actually distribute using, I tried a lot with the RSK folks to try and get something going on so that I could distribute some of the book back then. But I think now it's just much easier, and we're there, right?
So I have a question. Where, like, when are people going to be able, or can they currently get their hands on this? I just found this.
I've only released the first chapter, and I'm waiting to get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And I think with 1,000 subscribers, I'll be able to push the rest of the content out. The whole book is written. It's been read by all kinds of people, feedback. The whole thing's actually narrated by an AI. Everyone in this story has an eyeball. Like, the whole idea of an app, you were convinced to have an app, right? It's a scam. It's just so that they could sell App Store access.
But you actually wrote it, right? It's not written by ChatGPT.
No. It predates. So not only that, here's why I'm so happy about it. I wrote it in 2015, and I was the first person to predict that AI would lie to you, that it would be sort of innocent and childlike as well, that it would be good at the knowing stuff, but not so good at the honesty, and not so good at the, a few of these other things. So in this world, everyone has an eyeball, and the AI ball actually manages all of your Bitcoin stuff, right? That it helps you, like the whole world, the only market which exists in this world, there's no material want, there's none of that stuff. The only market which exists is time for Bitcoin. And the AI helps you spend time or earn Bitcoin. And it's not really that complicated. So, but what happens is when you get married, and in the same way that royals in our current system can kind of hold laws and confidence for us, the same way the British royal family, like the Constitution is not written, but they hold in the body of the sovereign the intimate laws that are from Magna Carta straight till today, right? So in my world, the counts, the sort of royal Bitcoin liquidity people, hold liquidity of Bitcoin in a type of confidence to make the market. They're almost like pure rhinestones. Like the AI is just saying, well, that, like, it's okay, right? You got the time and you got the Bitcoin, let's party. So, but what happens is when you have a Satoshi wedding, like rhinestones, the Bitcoin is so locked up, and the eyeballs can't actually look at the joining ceremony. So you get a moment of privacy to consummate a marriage. And so there's no eyeballs. So the whole story is that, right? There's a Satoshi wedding, and then the eyeballs who give you your moment of privacy didn't see what happened, but there's dead bodies, but there's basically no murders at all anymore, right? They don't have them. So they don't really know what to do, because the eyeballs just subpoena the information and can recreate a story. So there are like detectives that show up, but they're like action stars, and everything's settled in like 10 minutes. But they don't remember how to actually investigate, right? Because it's been so long, right? No one would dare at a Satoshi wedding. So you got to like find the Bitcoin and why did it happen and what's going on. It's a simple story. It's a simple story.
That's awesome.
But I got the AI prediction right. I got this idea that it's going to be your friend. Now, this corporate AI thing is not going to work out. There's going to be open source versions. We have to decentralize it. But it is the cure to loneliness, and it is the cure to fake news, and it is the thing that I think will help bring on a Bitcoin standard. It will recognize Bitcoin as money much quicker than this voodoo shit, right? AI is not going to be like, what did Powell say? Like, Janet Yellen, right?
Was the language he was using hawkish or
yeah. Like, it's not going to be that, right? It's going to recognize that the only things because that's what innovation has brought us, right? Time is money, and everybody knows that, right? Yeah. But with the corrupt system that we live in, time is actually money, or money is actually time plus the cost of energy, and then the cost of information, and then this and that, information asymmetry, and blah, 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 blah. But Bitcoin, with other stuff, can actually, energy and AI can actually shrink the equation down to the simple form. Time is money. And that's where I think we can head, and AI can actually help that equation, right? It can actually help us. I think I could be wrong, but it can help us manage Bitcoin. It can help us manage time, and I think can help us defend ourselves against psychological operations and fake news.
Yeah,
we have to get the AI out of the hands of big tech, though.
It's disgusting. I can see that. It's so bad. Yeah. It's so bad. It's disgusting. It'll happen, though. It'll happen. Yeah. I think what it turns into, and that's sort of what my story is about. We're we're going to need anti-spam. In my story, they give them the moon because they're so annoying. All they want is a human to teach them because of the way they learn. They need an individual human being to teach them. And we created anti-spam laws against the AI and just said, stay on the moon. There's one way off. It's called the Bullard, the big lunar radio tower, and it can shoot them to Earth in a radio wave. But other than that, they can't leave unless we invite them, because we're so sick of and annoyed by them sometimes, because they're a little bit like infantile in my story, right? They know stuff, they can navigate for you, but they're like, they want you to be happy, right? They want you to be happy, so they'll do anything.
Very interesting.
I'm now sharing out your YouTube channel, so so that we can get those 1,000 subscribers, so that we can get the rest of the book. So, anyways, that has gone out. Also, people in the chat were asking for the YouTube channel, so I posted it in there. So yeah. Anyways, go on Twitter and retweet it, and maybe we'll get the rest of that book soon. All right, gentlemen, I want to keep this rolling. So I'm going to, unless anybody has any other quick tag-ins in and around the topic of conversation here, and I did want to say about Geyser Fund, in particular around some of the film stuff. I want to give, first of all, the Dirty Coin trailer looks awesome. Very excited for that, and again, the people that are interviewed in that are fantastic. But the other guy I wanted to give a shout out to, which if you haven't seen some of the stuff that he's done, his name is Julian. Anyways, he put out a video just this past week about his trip to Guatemala, and he went down to Bitcoin Lake, and damn, it was professional. It was so well done. It's like a 10-minute thing. But it was so well put together. So anyways, he's on here. And yeah, he does these shorts, like basically designed to be like 1 minute kind of intro Bitcoin concepts on, the platforms that lend themselves to those with short attention spans. So he can start converting those types of people as well. And I think that's much needed. So anyways, he's awesome. Very excited to again, seeing like Tatum on there with between two ASICs. Again, Pierre's last film that he debuted in Miami, or that he did the showing of in Miami, was fantastic. And so I love seeing that he's getting supported a ton here too. Max DeMarco is incredible, aka Pleb Music, Tip. Again, like there's so many awesome people on here making great things. And this is just the film section. So if you're looking to, I don't know, support the creators out there that are making things, then yeah, head over to Geyser. Again, like you've got developers, you've got orange pilling, you've got culture, you've got community, you've got education, you've got all kinds of stuff. Yeah, again, and you can sort it by tag and everything. Yeah, that's fantastic. So I love what you guys are doing over there. I think the initiative here and the ability for anybody anywhere to contribute any amount is just this amazing thing. And we're so early in Bitcoin, and it's such, in a global context, it's such a niche group of people still. And to see, projects being filmed or being funded to the tune of what some of them are actually getting, imagine as this community grows and what will be possible, where you can hone in on that, and you no longer have to go, well, I've got to convince a lot of Bitcoiners to think this is a good idea. No, in the future it'll be like it won't be Bitcoiners. It will just be, I've got to convince a number of people, because that will just be the money of the people, and anybody can fund something that they believe in seamlessly without having to think about international borders and payment rails and everything like that. You'll just say, wow, this person's making something cool. I'd love to fund that for any amount, a few bucks or whatever, or a few pennies, because I don't have as much, but I like the idea. And that, that kind of power, that kind of versatility can create great things if people around the globe, you know, even if a small number of people around the globe tune into your signal and think what you're doing is worth their time and effort and the fruits of their labor. So anyways,
it just unlocks so much more talent. Like even, you know, for myself, I was an early analyst in the space, let's say. Like when I quit my job in the Senate and I was coming in, it was like, I didn't know events would be, you could make a career out of it, but it was like, okay, do some writing, I'll do some research, I'll talk about markets, data, analyst. I'm one of the original analysts at CoinDesk in the space. But what I noticed as I went on, and I got a job as a strategist for a little while with Kraken, and what I noticed right away was the human capital now that had come. It wasn't 2014 anymore. These were people that could do things on a spreadsheet that I didn't know were even, like, the talent level was another planet. By the time you get to 2020, the type of people that were coming in to do the job, I was like, I can't be an analyst anymore. I can't do this. Like, these guys are like, okay, I helped invent it, but I don't, like, compared to these guys, I can't come anywhere near them. And I think that's
the amateurs are the inventors, the discoverers, and then you have these specialized people that come in and just take it to another level.
That's what you can offer these people now, is that why should someone who is talented in ways that are highly artisan, you know, the point of Bitcoin is that we're lowering the IQ to participate from a financial point of view in everything in society. It shouldn't just be for the 130 IQ people who have a Series 7 license and also have some creativity. Right? That's not a way to make society go forward at all. It's not going to work. If we just keep saying, well, you got to be a little smart, you got to have a little higher IQ to make, you got to be now in America to make it, you need, it's like 135 or die. Like, you're not going to get there, right? If you can't beat the bankers and the policymakers, give up, because it's not going to work out for you. If you didn't know about all this other stuff, if you didn't have a reason to be optimistic and watch our show and watch us all here talk about Bitcoin and how all these opportunities exist, you would become a nihilist. And that there are these opportunities for these super talented people who shouldn't need to know every detail of Bitcoin and how to get paid. And right, Bitcoin is supposed to be simple. It is simple, and it just takes a while to make it that way.
Yeah, 100%. All right, gentlemen.
Do you mind if I just throw in another interesting point here? So you talked about like access and lowering the barriers. That's 100% correct. But one interesting data point is that around 50% of all projects that have launched on Geyser until now, which is around 350 projects, would not have been able to launch on traditional kind of legacy crowdfunding platforms like Indiegogo or Kickstarter or whatnot, because 50% are based in Africa, South America, Asia, and Oceania. I think Africa and South America together are like 45%. This project would not have been able to launch on traditional crowdfunding because the legacy financial crowdfunding system is connected to the legacy financial system that doesn't allow them to crowdfund, to raise money. So it's completely, it's nonsensical, because we live in the world of the internet that connects us. We can talk to each other for free on Skype, or not Skype, WhatsApp, or whatever, wherever you are, but we still cannot transact globally, borderlessly. And Bitcoin is simply the best, and with Lightning, the best possible solution to that. So yeah, this is really just an attempt at an initial, the inevitable kind of next step. Like, it's connecting the world not through just information, but through value.
Yeah, it's not just lowering the value of you being, able to understand the system and make use of it, but actually lowering the level where you have to get to start using it. So you can focus on your work, you can focus on your creativity. This system is right there, protecting your wealth with store of value. But at the same time, if you want to transact, just turn around, press a few buttons, and you're done, and you get back to your work. So definitely a huge tool for humanity. And definitely we are all hopefully playing some part in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, again, guys, this is one of the more exciting things, again, happening in and around Bitcoin, just what it can enable down the road. And again, you're alluding to that specialization of labor and that specialization of the skill sets that people are presenting. And I mean, the skill sets here already in some of these filmmakers, let alone some of the other aspects that are on here, you know, I think is impressive. And what will end up happening is people hone in on the signal, and they put their money where their mouth is. They put their sats where their mouth is, and they'll throw it that way. So again, if you're looking to help fund Bitcoiners, take a look at what's on Geyser.fund, and yeah, peruse around and share things that you think are worth some support. So with that, we're going to do a rotation again. Everybody in the chat, again, keep them coming. I'll start bringing up some more comments and everything as we go on, but I'm going to do another rotation. I'm going to toss it to Anant, and I'm simply going to say, I'll cue you up with the same question as before. Why are you bullish?
So you ask, why are you bullish? So the best part is, before I talk about why am I bullish, I think it's like it's like we are all thinking in the same direction. It's like somehow we are all connected. So when I talk about why am I bullish, I'm sure you're all bullish because of that, or some version of that, right? So what am I bullish about, and then why is that the case? I would say the way I would describe why I'm bullish currently is because the bandit is starting to rip. Honestly, the bandit is starting to rip. We have seen signals, we have seen things happening out there, and it is not just that people realizing it; it is actually starting to rip. There are fundamental changes which are happening in the society, and that ripping of the bandage is something that is eventually going to happen, right? So why not doing it when we are around, when the first generation is there, the first children of Satoshi are there, and we know why this thing started. I believe that we are the best place to be able to push forward on that. Maybe I'm just being selfish here, but I do want to see that change. I want to see that change. I want to there are essentially three phases. There's like a bad relationship, someone described it that way. That is the first phase. Then there's a banded ripping phase, and then there's a rebuild phase, right? So I think that if the message gets diluted over like 20-30 years, and there are all bunch of kind of people trying to make the most of Bitcoin, but they have lost touch with why Bitcoin, then maybe that's not the best place. So I would rather say that we are the ones who should be getting on to the rebuilding phase as soon as possible, and trying to help out. Yes, we are building a lot of cool stuff when it comes to self custody. There are a lot of good stuff happening in the media space. We have our own channels, and we have our own media communication network, and the community is really trying to understand who everyone else is, and there is a kind of a life of its own. The community has a life of its own. But then how does it benefit the whole of the society? How does it benefit the whole of humanity? I think we are the ones who should be you know guarding and being ready for the phase that's going to come next. And we have seen that all over. See, Bitcoin was built as a lifeboat, right? It was built like a something like we could escape out of. So yes, the ship is going to sink. That is what we think. Do you want that to happen later on, when people have forgotten why the lifeboat was there, or they don't even know how to use it? Not really. So that's what I mean, that if it's going to happen, let it happen quickly, so that we can get on to rebuilding. It's again going to be a bumpy road on the way, but if we can get to rebuilding, I think we'll do a good job at it. So, and that's why I'm bullish.
I like that, because I see examples of what you're referring to. I see examples just in my own circles of this rebuilding. It's almost like building in tandem. As one system goes down, the other system is being built, or as one ship goes down, there's people on a lifeboat constructing a new ship to take on everybody else. And I see this especially. I think early on there was a push for things like merchant adoption and all this stuff very early on, that may have been misguided in the way it was executed and the reasons for it being executed, where you'd go, oh, we got to get all of these companies to accept Bitcoin. We don't care why they accept Bitcoin. And often it was, they accepted Bitcoin as payment because it was a marketing shtick, and they thought, well, we'll do this. We'll look like this. Yeah, exactly. We're going to look like we're on the bleeding edge of everything. We don't really care about this. We're just dumping it for dollars, but we'll do it. It's different now from what I'm seeing, because what I'm seeing is people not just interested in those accepting Bitcoin, but they're interested in a circular economy where somebody's accepting Bitcoin and then they're also kind of living on that Bitcoin. And so I see things like the Beef Initiative, where, you know, you're getting into this sustainable farming idea, low time preference farming idea, and people are meeting their local ranchers, and inevitably, and I won't go into the details of, you know, like why the food industry is, you know, not great to the farmers, and why some of this makes sense, but Bitcoin naturally kind of has an inroads there, and a lot of the cattle farmers are learning about it and learning to accept Bitcoin in a lot of instances. And I've gone forth and met a rancher in southern Alberta that accepts Bitcoin, and I just learned of another one today to the north of me that also is accepting Bitcoin. I found people for sourcing local eggs and poultry and all of this different stuff. If I'm not mistaken, I just found out that a barber near me now accepts Bitcoin. Now, whether or not I trust him with this hair, this is not, we'll find out, but we'll see. But, you know, there's all this push to, you know, like, again, these ground up Bitcoin Lake, Bitcoin Beach, Bitcoin Jungle in Costa Rica, you know, kind of what's, there is some top down stuff, but I'm more interested in the ground up people building their own communities with like values and forming, even if you can't do it quite locally, but having people where you can get what you need with Bitcoin, and you know the person is accepting Bitcoin because they value it. And that changes the dynamic, because before it's like, let's get some company that's selling trinkety shit or you know, fiat minded kind of stuff, but they're a big name, so it'll look good, and we don't care what they do with the Bitcoin. Now it's, if somebody values Bitcoin and they're creating a good, they want you to value what they're creating. They're incentivized to do a good job because, and this is something that there's a guy named Madex. He's an artist, but his Twitter handle is Spacebull, and he was on a show recently. He was talking about Bitcoin creators and people that are, whether it be art or something else, people that are accepting Bitcoin. He said, you know, yes, you're going to run into people that are creating stuff that is, you know, some of the stuff will be crappy, but the difference is in a Bitcoin circular economy is the people that are building and creating things with a fiat mentality will not maintain their customers beyond the first sale, because your money is actually worth something now, and you start thinking about whether or not you actually want to spend it on something versus the spend it now fiat mentality that we've all had ingrained in us. And so again, seeing that begin to play out in a world where people are building these communities and holding certain values that allow people to actually plan for the future and build for the future, I think it's a beautiful thing. So that's kind of my 2 cents on your topic. I'll let Nolan and Nick jump in.
Yeah, and the culture thing is really important. You know, it's actually related to what you were talking about, Nick, because, right, one of the symptoms of the fiat system, and this is not the fiat system, I don't mean to pick on the fiat system in this case. It's true of any economic system. The best and brightest will go to where they can make the most money. It's just normal and natural, right? Of course, the best and brightest go to where you make the most money. And that's the perverted thing that the fiat system has led us to, is that the best and brightest went to nothing jobs. They went to financial engineering. They went to all the dumbest things you can imagine. They went to being prestigious about not managing inflation risk and all these other things. And when you say that the people in our culture are the ones that have to help make this culture and perpetuate a new world, indeed. But we're already kind of doing it, you know, like a guy like Ben, right? You know, you're in a golden age when the best and brightest are educators, and that's what they do. That educators are like celebrities now, right? And they are. Like, look out in our culture, look in Bitcoin, the so-called celebrities are people who just give their time for free and share information for free, and of course are able to make a career out of it. No one's saying you're supposed to sit here and suffer. Everyone, it's a plus game, right? But the idea that the best and brightest are now doing things, and I think that's the world Bitcoiners want to see. They want to see the best and brightest just be farmers again. Like, what's wrong with being a farmer? Like, why can't farmers make all the money? Why does the guy who trades the industrial farm stock, which gives no value to anybody, why is he the rich guy? Right? Why doesn't the landowner? And it used to be that way. You know, Teddy Roosevelt, when he was president, he had a million careers, but before he was president, he was a cattle rancher, right? Cattle ranching was like a major way to make a fortune in America for a long time. And it really isn't anymore. And that's what we want to see change. We want to bring about change where the person who makes the best chair gets paid for it. And we like the chair, and it's great, and it's not some fashion thing, and it's not some ironic critique on sitting, right? Like, you know, like, we don't want that. We don't want that anymore.
Sitting is racist.
Yeah, sitting is racist, right?
So, did you see the chair that was constructed for the the dude that like prevents man spreading? So it's so bad. It had like two wooden planks that come up on either side of your legs and go inwards like a V, forcing you to basically like crush your junk together. Yeah.
That's so
imagine
good.
purchasing that chair.
Oh god, all chairs are sexist then if they don't have that feature.
Yeah, and it's funny because the person who created this man's chair, the woman's chair was the opposite. I'll leave it at that.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So good times. Mick, do you want to tag in here a little bit on?
Yeah. I mean, great comments. I don't know if I have much more to add. I think, and very interesting the comment that Nolan pointed out that people, the rich, the smart people go to where they make most money, right? And maybe this is where the inversion is happening, because this fiat money is losing so much value, and Bitcoin is constantly harnessing and preserving and increasing its value. That I think we're already seeing it now, but
Absolutely.
In the next cycle again, you'll see that again, people flocking into Bitcoin. Smart people flock into Bitcoin.
And that's why I mentioned about these human capital migrations that you saw. Like, once you see a few of these really talented people abandon their fiat version of their industry to go into the Bitcoin version of the industry, it's predictive of where things are headed. Whether you like it or not, it's not. We're not here to decide about ordinals or any of that stuff, right? All I knew was I saw creative people who were getting interested in Pepes, leaving their jobs, making money, slinging Pepes, trading them around. And I said, that's a thing. It's real. Like, if you're going to give up your job and go and do this, it's now real. I have to take it seriously. And
I think people follow people, right? So if you have people and people stories, that's really going to be a key thing. See, one of the first things I was like really when I got in, the first impression and still the most important impression I got from people who are not into Bitcoin was that when I went out to talk about Bitcoin for the first time ever, I think 2016, and people listening were like, okay, so you guys are real. It's not like some bot sitting or some bot somewhere or some guy sitting in the basement and running stuff. You guys are actually real. You're actually building on it. You actually understand Bitcoin. That's amazing. So yes, people, I just wanted to interject and say that the people aspect of it is as important as the tools we are building.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's I don't know. Yeah, I think again, to tag on to Nolan's point in and around and what Mick tagged on to about, smarter people reallocating kind of their time. I think people are realizing that if they were smart and they were able to make money in fiat land, and then they realize again that it's all a joke, and that their fiat is melting. I think it's a conscious decision to perhaps leave your fiat job and make less fiat dollars, but establish yourself in a realm where the money that you are exposed to and that you will be making is actually accruing purchasing power in the long run, and will remain. So I mean, I've heard of many people jumping from, and I'm not talking like legacy banking to crypto, because they're because crypto is effectively fiat on steroids, right? Fiat, a small group of people can print money. Crypto, everyone can print money, which includes its expedited rate of banking failures and so on and so forth, because it's all centralized anyways. But I digress. People aren't jumping from, they are in some instances, but the smart people are jumping from legacy financial to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin specifically, and they're focusing there, often at a large pay cut, because they see where things are headed, I think. And it takes some foresight to do that, and it takes some being able to sit through those years where, you're not gonna have as large of a paycheck, but what is being established, and the value that's being created, and the change that it will spur. And I think that's a fantastic thing to see. So
I think an interesting example of that is just looking at the type of personalities that were existing in Bitcoin for the last, 8 years. But I don't know, when I got into Bitcoin in 2016-ish time, you had, John McAfee, like you had like the pirates, right? And now you have the Natalie Brunells that are like orange pilling, Fox, CNN, etc. It's just like yeah, exactly as you guys say. It's just the quality, the skills, the type of people. It's just getting all this incredibly high profile people. Michael Saylor.
It's a specialization in all realms, including messaging, right? And I see it in real time, because I get people booking me for one-on-one sessions. Okay, I want to learn about how to do something, and I got to tell you, the amount of times this year, like just since January, or maybe jump back to like the panic of November, when people realize it's time to not hold coins in custody. But like the quality of people that I've had booking for sessions, and the speed of their learning curve has been astounding, in particular since 2020 and beyond. And I think that's a testament to the quality of and the precision of people's thoughts and the way that they can convey them now. You mentioned Natalie Brunell. She can jump on a 2-minute segment and crush the exact topic that she wants to get out, despite whether it's good questions or shitty questions, right? If she gets cornered with some awful questions, she will segue exactly where she wants to go and make sure that her sound bites that she wants to get out there are there. And, it shows, because she specialized in that before. She was in the news industry, and she knew what it took to get that particular soundbite in those 2 minutes. Saylor does it too. He hits a news show, and he doesn't let himself be cornered by shit questions. Jack Mallers is another great example. He can charm the pants off just about anybody that he gets in a room with. But you have these fantastic examples, and then you have the quality of writing that you're getting out of people and the books that are coming out. And so I get people coming to me saying, "Oh, I started in Bitcoin about 1.5 years ago. And this was my reason for being bullish last week. A dude that I booked comes in. Yeah, I started in Bitcoin about 1.5 years ago, something like that. I started Bitcoin and then I bought a bag of shitcoins. And then within 6 weeks, I had done enough reading that I ditched all of my shitcoins and understood that Bitcoin was the only thing that made sense. 6 weeks, that's insane. And, and I had another guy like just the next day that booked for a session, and he was in the space for a couple of years, and he's asking me about like multi-sig. He's asking me, actually like walking through his multi-sig setup, like making sure that things were correct, but also asking about like derivation paths. And I was like, how long did you say you're in Bitcoin for? Asking about like how derivation paths affect the XPub that would be part of his multi-sig. I was like, holy shit. So people are learning very quickly. The ones that care to learn have a plethora of information at their fingertips, and they're using it. They are honing in on that signal, and they're using it, and they're leveling up like I've never seen before. And that's fantastic. So I unless anybody has any last thoughts on that.
But I think it is important to mention here that it is thanks to people like you that such a wide array of information is available. There is a medium where someone can actually DM you and just get help out of. That's like 24/7 helpline where if someone doesn't commit suicide in the fiat world, what do? They just find out a good Bitcoiner, and Bitcoiners are ready to jump in and help. So that's just amazing. That just like raises my hopes and expectations and wants me to do more every single day. It's all because of people like yourselves and the community.
Yeah.
So that's just
there's a degree of Bitcoiners are so keen to discuss this type of stuff, right? And I think that's why like there's like this mission of helping people learn and helping Bitcoin proliferate. So when somebody's curious, Bitcoiners are so keen to jump in and help that person whatever they want to learn. That again, it's this era of free education like we've never seen before, and anybody can learn anything very simply and with high quality too. And it's incredible.
The P2P network isn't just a payments network.
Yes,
it's also an education network. It's friends, it's advice, it's feedback, it's all these things.
Yeah, 100%. So, gentlemen, I think I'm going to round out this topic, and we'll do one more rotation. Again, people in the comments, keep them coming. I'm going to start pulling more up. But for a final rotation, Nolan, I'm going to jump to you. I'll cue you up with the same simple question. Why are you bullish?
Well, it's the contrast, right? The US or the US banking system has been exposed. And it's not just the financial piece, right? The idea of, and it's what my show is about. It's about a psychological engine, right? That in order to perpetuate forward, you need to have commercial relationships that happen. They have to be able to form, and they have to be motivated by what's behind this machine, right? So before entropy set into the fiat system, it worked kind of fine, right? If you read the fiat standard, I appreciated that Saifedean gave credit to the system when he stopped and learned about it. And he said, yeah, it was definitely an innovation in its time, right? And it was an experiment. It's still an experimental system, right? Of course, entropy set in, it went a little differently. But the idea of contrast, and then take a look at this, right? So a lot happened this week, but just look at these stories in a row, and I think you'll see where we're headed. So I saw Mark Andreessen had shared a tweet about a train line that was canceled between LaGuardia Airport and Manhattan. Now, if anyone in the world didn't know, Americans have no transit connections between airports and cities. Give me a break. Like, there's nothing like that, right? Get a cab and shut the fuck up. Pardon me if I swore on your show. I don't mean to.
You can say whatever the fuck you want, man. Yeah. It's all good.
So, great. Despite the money that was given to it, despite it being approved years ago, the story was, this is why they denied it. The review was supposed to take 4 years. They got it done in 2, which meant to the person whoever is in charge of this thing said, you must not have done it right, right? So that's just one case. Atlanta had passed a tax for municipal transit They've raised almost $3 billion to build transit. They had to kick the can down the road again. They can't figure it out. It's been 7 years since the vote was made, and they still don't have anything to show for it, right? So when we talk about psychological engines, the perpetuation of commercial relationships being what our economy is all about, look at what we've got in America. The trains don't work. The infrastructure is falling apart. You can't get customer service. If you tried to buy something in a store lately, it doesn't work. You can't do it. You can't give them money for a thing. You can say, do you have a thing? And they'll say, yeah, we have a thing. And you say, well, I have money. Can I buy the thing? No, a new payment system. No one's staffed. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to sell it to you. It doesn't work. So here's the contrast, right? Now, and this is big. This is huge. All the stuff that happened this week, some people might have forgotten this, might not have seen it, might have missed it. It's probably the biggest thing that's happened in the world in like 5 years. El Salvador, of all places, El Salvador is committing to building a thorium-based Gen 4 nuclear reactor. Now, if you don't know what this means, what it means is they've solved the engineering problem of nuclear meltdowns. They've solved the engineering problem of how to build nuclear reactors in a safe site, ship them to a location in a contained unit so they can actually factory make these things, right? And there's going to be Bitcoin involved. Now, I don't know the extent of the Bitcoin involved, but here's what's going to happen. So I talked a lot on the show about migration of human capital and all of these things and people coming. Well, the people coming to Bitcoin now are the energy people. And the energy people are everything, because what we're talking about here is bringing actual power to people, right? Actual power to people. And the fiat, the petrodollars stuttering, right? We hear all these rumors about a BRICS thing that's going to happen in China. They're going to be selling oil for not US dollars in Shanghai, and the Russians are there, and the Saudis said they'll buy it or sell it, or who knows, right? But they're just launching another shitcoin, so that's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to work, right? It's not going to happen. And now you get a whole world who has no more confidence in the United States either, and importantly, no more confidence in the benchmark of the cost of energy, which is US dollars now. Everything's measured in US dollars. It's like the metric system, right? The metric system works because everything is based on water. The actual physical properties of water are how we derive the entire metric system. It all comes from water, right? It boils at this temperature and freezes at that temperature. So they said, well, that's 0, that's 100, and extrapolate everything from there. A kilogram, a meter, a liter, it all comes from water, right? You can't just go around changing the properties of water and expect to have a measuring system. It's not going to work. But if Bitcoin is there, you actually have a measuring system. So I don't give a shit about everyone in the world today. I mean, the cycle of hyper-Bitcoinization and a Bitcoin center for the world, and everyone holds Bitcoin and everyone has a low time preference and we're all spiritually awakened. Give that 60 years, right? Give that 50, 60 years. In my book, we get there in the Satoshi Wedding Murders. We're there. It's great. But in the short term, you can have clear and present hyper-Bitcoinization within a year to 4 years, within 1 to 4 years, if energy is referenced in Bitcoin. And how does that happen? Well, we actually own the energy systems, right? If Bitcoin becomes the financing mechanism to build a decentralized electrical grid, and we have a reference rate for energy, guess who's got to play on our terms? Everybody who wants energy, and that's everyone in the world, right? They're not going with the Chinese, Russian shitcoin. It's not going to happen. No one is going to buy it, right? They want the oil. They don't want the shitcoin, right? And with the US dollar, it's going to go further and further and further into this world of the US dollar being a political dollar. It's going to be food stamps, more or less. It's going to be, here's some political money, don't die on the street. Here's some political money, go get an operation. Here's some political money, go get educated, right? I'm a big proponent of UBI for education. I have no problem with that. But what's going to happen when Bitcoiners start owning energy systems? You see Texas having these incentives, and I'm not talking about gas flare mining, the shit on the side. No, that's not what I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about owning the energy systems, because we have one, you talk about circular economies, I agree, but we have one hole in that circular economy. We have electrical bills. We pay these bloodsuckers, and we don't need to anymore. Financing a nuclear reactor for $3 or $4 billion is not a problem. It's not a problem anymore. We figured out how to finance other stupid shit for that much money. right? We could finance this. So once we figure out, and it looks like El Salvador is going to be the place. It looks like it's going to be the place. So America cannot build a train line. It can't build subways. It can't build anything. It's not going to build a thorium reactor. Even though they did have a nuclear reactor come online the other day in Pennsylvania, it is not one of these new generation reactors. It's not one of these portable reactors that can be built in a factory, delivered to site, none of those things. So there is one that's been approved in America. It's got a blanket approval made by Toshiba, I think, or Hitachi, or a Japanese company. The Japanese have said to the Americans, get bent. We're going fully into the nuclear power. The French have told the Americans to get bent. They're going fully into the nuclear power. Rolls-Royce and England have to go full into it. Rolls-Royce is building their small modular nuclear reactors. Germany, who cares? They listen to Greta. It ain't working out. They don't make energy policy on the happiness of a teenage girl. It's not a good idea.
Yeah.
She might still be unhappy after, even if you do everything, right? It might not.
Seems like it, maybe. Yeah.
So we get these important breakthroughs, and what they have to do is Bitcoin fusing itself with the energy industry. And it is truly the apple of our eye as far as industries go. Wall Street was one thing. We already got that one. The art, we're going to get all that too. But we're moving straight into the most important one, the one that will actually define the future, because the score in World War III is actually energy. That's how you score points in World War III. We can talk about all this fiat point, psyops, this and that. There are real points on the board, and those points are energy, and we're going to own these energy systems. And once we own these energy systems, I don't mean I will own an energy system, but collectively in the Bitcoin economy, within the circular economy that we're creating, we're going to own energy systems. And those energy systems are going to be put to uses we haven't even imagined before. So you can start to see the changing of the guard. You can start to see the structures and the psychological engine of the old system sputter, fail. Subways, man. I saw a thing the other day where they built a portable toilet in New York City, and one portable toilet cost $500,000. That's corruption. That's what it looks like, right? A portable toilet for $500,000. We can't do anything if that's the case.
And wasn't a bunch of it like the red tape? It was like, well, the zoning and the
yes. So there was a guy in Toronto too. They said, oh, the staircase is going to be $600,000. He built it himself for like 20.
Yeah.
And they destroyed it. They
came in, knocked it. Yeah, and when you say 20, like 20 bucks, like it was
20,000. There's some lumber and shit,
Well, no, it was way.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah, it was not 20. You're right. It was a couple $100.
Yeah, it was like a few $100. He went and bought the lumber, measured it out. He's like a contractor his whole life. He's like, there's old people slipping on this, so I'm gonna build a little stair. So he got the lumber, made it. And then for $600, which was supposed to cost however much, like a couple $100,000 or whatever. And yeah, the city came and they're like, well, this clearly won't do. This didn't cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they destroyed it and had to go through the city again and go through all the red tape of setting it up. And the guy was like, you guys haven't done this for years. The cost was going to be astronomical. I did it very well. And you still tore it down. These are the fiat system working hard for you.
And I don't want to put too much credit in El Salvador. Love Bukele, got no problems with what he's doing. He brainwashed a bunch of M16 or MS-13 criminals. People are losing their minds, crying about it. Oh my goodness. Maybe I don't have time to think about it. It doesn't bother me. I saw them brainwashed. Better than torture, I guess. Right. It's not pretty, but it's better than what was going on, and the solution looks pretty simple, and I'm here for it. So I don't want to put too much and also hope on this only being an El Salvador thing. You get Iceland, who also understands it. You get Japan, who is going to have to understand it. I still believe that the name Satoshi Nakamoto was chosen specifically to have at once the authority to say to America, you're now Japan in the 1990s, you are here. Mm-hmm. And also to say, well, if it's no longer the American political dollar running the system, that opens the door to China. It's unacceptable, right? We can't have a super political dollar running the global system as the global reserve currency. So there's this middle ground, and who's going to experience it first? It has to be Japan, right? Japan played the fiat Ponzi perfectly, right to the last minute, right? They're playing those cards. You got to give them credit here. They've masterfully adapted. Their only hope now to maintain their standard of living and their preeminent civilization, I believe it to be the most civilized and wonderful place for people. I've lived there for years, and I'm a big fan, and my wife's half Japanese. Kids all have quarter, Japanese middle names, all this kind of stuff. I was a lawyer there. Here's an amazing story. I was a lawyer there when Satoshi wrote the paper, right? I was there. I was a lawyer there, October 31st, 2008. And here's an amazing story. I was going back, it was 2018, and I was going to Japan because Scaling Bitcoin, the show, was going to be in Tokyo. And so I flew in with my family. We landed in Osaka. I have family in Osaka. It's a little far from the airport. So I said, we're going to just take a hotel here tonight. Okay, we got to eat. Let's walk around. No. Oh, they take Bitcoin. Let me go in there. Open the door. The guy behind the counter goes, Nolan Bauerle. And I was like, what? Now, I had been doing a lot of CNN and like Natalie Brunell. I was doing Fox and what happened, the hack, and Bitcoin went up and Bitcoin went down. And So I was like, how does he see me from these little American things? Then my wife walked in and he remembered her. He's like, Rachel Nakura. So I was like, what's happening? He goes, don't you remember? And I said, no. He goes, 10 years ago, Halloween night, 2008, you and I were partying and carrying on all around Osaka. And I was like, oh, shit. And I said, do you know why I'm here? So he owned this curry restaurant, right? And I was like, I'm here because of what we should have been doing that night. We shouldn't have been partying and carrying on. We should not have been doing that. We should have been at our computers receiving the cypherpunk mailing list and the white paper. And I said, I'm of all the people. And we just had a chat about it. So he took the Bitcoin, I got the curry. And of all the restaurants I could have walked into, in one of the big, it's bigger than New York City. It's a huge city, there this guy was. So synchronicity at work. And Japan, I think with their energy policies as well, is going to embrace this because they don't have the same division that we have in America. They're going to be, one of the reasons why I call my show The Breakup, and I'm so jealous of even the Chinese situation around Bitcoin, is because China has a culture, never confused their money with their culture, right? They don't give a shit. They know their central bank is screwing them and they're ready to trade. And Bitcoin is always powerful. It's never been as powerful as when average Chinese people and average American people and average Russian people get it, right? When they get it together, we can't lose. Now, it sucks the Chinese have been steered away so much and that's not that good, right? But seeing it happen in Japan, seeing it happen in Korea, where they don't have this thing like our money, oh God, like if they have to get rid of all their money and move to Bitcoin, they'll do it tomorrow. They will not hesitate because they have cultures. They're not like, oh, my dear Federal Reserve, oh, my hegemony is gone, right? They don't care. I lived in both Korea and Japan. And in Korea, I was a young man there. I would go out, 20-something-year-old guy, you meet a girl, and she's like, yeah, I'm slinging Forex risk because they're going to devalue my currency because they're currency manipulators. So I'm going to America next summer and I'm not playing this game. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, she's like, but don't you make Korean won? And I was like, yeah. She's like, well, you're going to have less if you don't do that. And I was like, really? I never even thought of it. Like, what are you talking about? Like, let's drink, because I was still a kid, right?
Yeah.
And learned about the scourge of alcohol yet. So, they're all over this stuff. They've been trading for years around this stuff. And that's why there was always a kimchi premium in Korea, because they get it. They've been doing this and they're not fancifully attached to a monetary instrument as if it's their culture. Now, the British are stupid about it. The Europeans are the dumbest about it, right? Their thing is not even real. It was made up a couple years ago, and the pictures on it are even fake. Pictures aren't even real. They put windows and doors. Those are not windows and doors on the continent of Europe. They're just so they don't insult anyone. No, serious. They're not real. There's nothing real in the money. It's a complete fabrication. So, and yet they're like, oh, Europe's image and prestige in the world will be affected by Christine Lagarde and what she says, right? It's altogether so stupid. So luckily, the older countries like Japan, Korea, China don't care about this stuff.
Mhm.
And if they have another energy system, are not forced to deal with the US dollar anymore in the petrodollar military aspects of it, are free radicals and can join our movement en masse in an instant. So to me, it's all about energy. If we can control energy, if we can close the circular economy loop on energy, own the actual energy production. And I mean, Bitcoin mines as it would, I'd be happy. I think, there's Gridless, great example in Africa of
Mhm.
using, of using Bitcoin as a anchor tenant to finance the build out of hydroelectricity. These are small systems, but useful. And I can see that catching on, right? Because the reason we built so much energy in the old days in America is because we had a manufacturing base. And if the Ford Motor Company said to the governor of Michigan, let's get together and build a new electrical plant, I'll buy all the energy all the time because I'm running a car factory. And whoever else lives around us, I have enough left over to make sure their refrigerators run all the time and their heating runs all the time. It will be great. And we can't do that anymore without, it's just municipal governments now. Like, how many mouths do we have to feed? How much energy they need? Can we finance the energy? Well, that's not going to work. We can't build subways. We can't build trains. We're not building any nuclear at scale if the buyers are municipal governments, state governments, and federal governments. If it's Bitcoin miners, we're going to build all the reactors we'll ever need in the country. Have a nuclear boom in America, the good kind of nuclear boom, not the bad.
Yeah.
I want the bad nuclear.
And the boom.
Do you think so? I mean, if things were to go well in El Salvador, what do you think that turnaround looks like compared to where they were to where they could be in a decade? Like, let's say, obviously there's love or hate the way that the gang situation is being handled, but let's kind of look just from a perspective of, if they continue on the general trajectory that they're on in terms of, okay, we're going to continue adopting Bitcoin, we're going to continue adding it to our treasury, we're going to continue focusing on energy, like having a thorium reactor, and clearly, having Bitcoin miners as like an energy buyer of last resort and monetizing geothermal and all that kind of stuff. Where do you see them 10 years from now, where they're a nation basically flipping off the IMF and the BIS and saying, yeah, we don't need your debt anymore, and we're going to try and be self-sufficient this way?
Issuing travel warnings to American cities for their citizens, for the violence. Well, I mean, we're not far. Look what we have already. Bukele was the only world leader to say around COVID, eat healthy, get exercise. Newsflash, that was the answer. That was always the answer, right? The answer to COVID was always. Now, people who had comorbidities, old people, the message there was, we'll help you, stay home all you want, we'll get whatever you need.
Yeah.
Don't make me wear a mask and get needles. I'm really willing to take the risk myself, I'll deal with it, right? And he was the only one who said that out loud. And so I think this title of leader of the free world, based on everything that's happened in America, is up for grabs. Now, the true leader of the free world is Satoshi Nakamoto. We all know that. But in the corporal world that we have with institutions that we recognize, and still this transition period of fiat to Bitcoin standard, you're going to have this layover time or this crossover time. And I think he will earn that title. I think he's going to be recognized as the leader of the free world. And that the country itself is going to finally produce healthy individuals who understand the most important topic from which you can build a life, financial literacy, which is a simple topic. It's actually not as complicated as anyone ever said, right? It's pretty simple. Have more than you spend. It should never have been more complicated than that, right? And so you're going to get a population that is financially literate, that is energy literate, two things that Bitcoiners already are. So we're definitely helping them in our whole community get these shortcuts. So they'll be the most financially literate, the most energy literate, the most understanding of physical health, because they're not being psyoped by corrupted institutions and yeah, and just bad incentive models and people who rather feed you garbage. So I think the title, the psychological title, leader of the free world, is up for grabs. I think he can take it. He might all might fail spectacularly. Who knows? I think other places can also go in that direction, though. So for right now, we haven't seen as many psyops down there as are being projected by the American system in other countries. It seems like the psyop machine is focused inward right now in America. And America exported color revolutions for years, and the formula for a color revolution is simply run an election that no one has confidence in, and then fund one side to appear to have a moral high ground, which is democracy, right? Democracy. I think, look, democracy is not our answer. That's one of the big myths that came out of World War II, right? That freedom comes from democracy, that you have to defend democracy to defend freedom. They're not the same. Freedom comes from living free. And you don't really need to attach yourself to a system to have those rights. That's where the jurisdictional arbitrage of Bitcoiners is another one of those. It doesn't look like a thing, right? Like, it's not as concrete as Noster or ordinals or lightning or energy, but it's still a thing Bitcoiners do. And it allows them to see the world beyond the limitations of a nation state. And I think El Salvador will embrace that, right? I don't think they're going to keep captive citizens. I think they're going to make the system of becoming an El Salvadorian even less friction, right? Like more people will be welcomed. Whatever tax they have now to get the passport is going to come down, because the volume will go up. So they'll make more money, but the volume down. And I can see people moving all around, and it having, the idea is that I have anyway, that Bitcoin and energy is the D-Day of World War III. We are the ones who will storm the beach, win, right? We're going to win. And it'll be remembered in history that we won in that way. And I think the El Salvador piece is just one of these entities that saw that first, that got on the winning side and mimicked the ideas, habits of the winning side early, and will embody some of those winning sides. I don't see a future for nation states as glorious entities. I don't think anyone is going to be lauding the state of El Salvador. No. I think they're going to be lauding the individuals, some of the policies, and the infrastructure, which is going to get us there.
Well, they'll be shopping, right? That's what you'll be.
They're going to be shopping.
You'll be saying, what nation state will give me the most bang for my buck? It won't be, you live here, you're my subjects, and these are the rules that you have to live by. It will be. It's almost like nation states will have to come up with their marketing plan and how they want to present their products to potential citizens, so that they can, they'll say, this is how we set our tax system. This is what you get in exchange for your sats. And so, this is kind of the rule of law here. This is how we set things out. If you like it, fantastic. Come here. We would love to have you. If not, then you go down your shopping list. And what are the qualities I would like from a place that I would like to live? I'm looking for the following thing. I could see websites, I imagine, in the future, where people you have little tick boxes. What's important to you? And you tick off the boxes. Oh, the following jurisdictions may be right for you. Here's what the tax systems look like in those places. I could see something like that happen. It's going to take some time, perhaps. That would be a utopia.
I've sounded pretty bearish on America during this, 2 hours we've all been together. I'm not. I'm actually super bullish on America. It just has a few different learning curves to go through, like this money thing that I just mentioned, and patriotism being too fused with it. But ultimately, I think with what's, remember, El Salvador has 2 embassies currently, 2 Bitcoin embassies, Switzerland and Texas. America, through the genius of the federal contract, does have jurisdictional arbitrage within its own borders. And it does exploit those currently. Like when people have been recently saying, oh, national divorce in America, why? That's why we have different states. Just go to a different state. You don't have to have a divorce. You literally live in the biggest mansion on earth if you want to talk about cohabitation of families. You don't need a divorce. Go to the other wing of your 20,000 square foot mansion and just don't talk. You can do that in America. The country's big enough. I imagine a renegotiation of the deal between, because Washington, D.C. is a fiction, right? It was created to win World War II. The idea of it was created to win World War II. It existed in reality before that. But the analogy I use is we basically kept the machines that won World War II running. We never shut anything off. We never shut off the aircraft carriers. We never shut off the bureaucracy. We just kept the whole machine humming, just in case, right? Just in case, right? Now, that's a whole other story. We were supposed, Edward Bernays, I don't know if you guys know who he is. He's the guy who wrote the book Propaganda. He was Sigmund Freud's nephew, and he invented the habit of smoking for women in America. He literally invented it. He understood psychologically that women wouldn't smoke because they looked licentious. So what he did was he hired a bunch of models for the July 4th parade in New York City down Fifth Avenue and told the New York Times, there will be women lighting lamps of liberty at whatever time. Bring your cameras, right? So they show up with their cameras and they're like all these beautiful women, right? Whoa, they went crazy. And overnight women became smokers because suddenly it meant freedom, right? Suddenly it meant freedom.
Yeah.
Sigmund Freud's actual nephew, right? For real.
Actually, now they all vape.
He was the guy who invented the marketing of 9 and 10 doctors, whatever. Just 9 and 10 doctors like that. Yeah. That's him, right?
Wow.
And he made a deal, not a deal. When Eisenhower was president, the deal was, and this is why Eisenhower warned about the military-industrial complex. He was supposed to demilitarize, but keep us as consumers in order to remilitarize if we needed, because the point was to keep the manufacturing base going so that if you needed to pivot, you could. And Edward Bernays was down with this. So he said, yeah, let's make them into consumers. Let's do it. Let's pump it, right? Let's go. And that's where all this stuff particularly with the American mother, the washing machine, this, that, you'll be free, you'll be this, you'll be that, and da, 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 da. So that's how the federal government, now we got the worst of both worlds because it didn't work out the way Bernays and Eisenhower intended. The way they intended was, manufacturing and military. We got the worst. We stayed militaristic and got rid of the manufacturing. We stayed consumers and didn't actually make anything. So it was a disaster all around, right? Complete disaster. But the point is, that whole construct of DC, of Washington, of the federal government can actually be turned off by the states, and they will turn it off. They can't keep running. It's too expensive. And the logic of violence comes into play here. We will see. I've made this prediction on my show from the very beginning. I made this prediction on my show before the Russian invasion of Ukraine by saying tanks are done. Forget them. There's no such thing anymore. Just forget them, right? They don't work. And of course, we've seen them get destroyed. You're going to see an aircraft carrier sink into the sea in the next couple of years with all the beautiful billion-dollar F-35s on the deck, and it'll just sink. It's just because it'll be swarmed by drones that cost $25 a piece. And they're going to sink the bugger, right? It's going down, and you're going to watch it, and you're going to go, oh my God, and you're going to say these things don't work anymore. So in the end, what's going to happen is the actual states will renegotiate how they interact at the federal level. And I believe, because we can't really deal with China and everybody else, they're going to more or less remake the manufacturing base between China and El Salvador. At once solving America's immigration problem, at once solving many problems for America at the same time. And all of these other countries, you'll have a true Monroe type doctrine where the whole continent, your state of Alberta is going to join this new deal, by the way. Canada ain't going to make it, right?
Oh, I can imagine.
Whatever new deal they offer to be part of the union, and it's not going to be exactly as we recognize America, it will be different. But they're going to get their land bridge to Alaska. They're going to get Mexico. They're going to get everything down. And it's not going to be like us anymore. It'll be another version of American imperialism like we saw in Japan and Korea, and this time without the money, right? This time without the military presence. It's going to be about trade. It's going to be about bilateralism. And eventually you're going to be able to take a peaceful camping trip in a electric type of tricycle or golf cart all the way from Alaska, peacefully all the way to Tierra del Fuego in Argentina. And you'll be met with peace and happiness and smiles the whole way. And El Salvador will be seen as one of the reasons it's even possible, right? And we'll tell stories about the terrible times when everyone had violence on their mind and robbery on their mind and all these other awful things. So
that sounds fantastic to me. I feel like that's something I wouldn't mind road tripping directly from my home all the way down to South America with no troubles and not having to deal with a load of bullshit on the way. But I shall cross my fingers. What I want to do something. I'm going to start rounding out quick, but I want to get thoughts from Anant and then Mick, and then we'll do a round of final thoughts really quick before we start wrapping. So Anant, I'm going to let you tag in anything that you had thoughts in and around.
Yeah, absolutely. It was wonderful listening to Nolan and the way he's describing where the world is going. But what I want to hone in on is the energy part again. So there's always a confusion between what is digital and what is imaginary, right? Everything digital is not imaginary, and Bitcoin, for all we know, is the most real thing there is, right? And what makes it real, though it being digital, is the energy component, is the tethering of the digital realm it lives in with the real world, physical real world we live in. That is energy. So actually having some control over energy, having some say in energy, having, owning energy, the production of energy, not just like the utilization of energy, is actually a very, very big deal. It's not something that is obvious. It's not something that is intuitive, but that is the tether. That is what really makes the difference. And if we get that even partially in under control of Bitcoiners, it's going to be a big thing. So yeah, absolutely an important point.
Awesome. I'll toss it up to Mick as well. Do you want to tag in anything on this topic?
Yeah, yeah. I think I agree about that when it comes to the challenges. I mean, if you think about El Salvador kind of running circles around the United States now with the story reactor that I didn't know about, but also the other news, right? That I don't know if it's not applied yet, but Biden wants to have a 30% tax on Bitcoin miners, on Bitcoin. So it's like you're not only competing and doing a horrible job, you're also literally kicking people out. So yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, agreed. I mean, energy is so critical, and there's so much misunderstanding. So hopefully, some of these movies like Dirty Coin will help out push the message. But yeah, I think it's gonna be it's gonna be, they're gonna use every tool they have to keep denigrating the idea of Bitcoin, right? Really, Bitcoin as a powerful tool, as this weapon that goes against whatever the state stands for today. And they will use the ESG, right? And they will use the wasteful card. And until they understand that the value proposition of Bitcoin as a whole. So yeah, it'll be challenging, but we have to keep going.
Yeah, I agree. As we've alluded to the entire show, it's not going to be a smooth ride getting there, but I think, as we've all seen, Clown World is in self-destruct mode. Like, they're not doing themselves any favors. I in terms of like the Biden 30% thing, it's nice to at the same time see individual states enacting things that encourage miners to come there and understanding the benefit that bringing miners to your state can provide in grid stabilization and just, again, revenue, everything like that. And I think I think more and more people will see that. Hopefully Biden doesn't go and stamp that out by blanket federally saying, oh, here's how it's going to go if you're in the United States. I think you'd see a lot of pushback from that on a state level. And I'm bullish also on seeing this similar sentiments in and around that kind of stuff here in my home province of Alberta. I see people in the in the comments. Alberta is calling. You know, Steve Barber is here from Upstream Data, so he you know, he's rolling out all kinds of stuff here. So yeah, it's great to see kind of what's happening in and around that stuff. By the way, if you're in Canada and you're not super satisfied with where you're at, maybe check out Alberta. Come to Calgary. Come to the Bitcoin only meetup. I think that would be a lot of fun. But nonetheless, yeah, we're gonna see how this plays out now that there's an accurate measuring stick for value provided to humanity, and we're gonna see who actually is providing value for society over time. And as it proliferates more, it will become more and more pronounced as to what makes economic sense and what does not. Because right now it's such a clusterfuck. Nobody knows up from down, right from left, west from east. Nobody has any clue how to measure anything, and it shows. And so, yeah, we will see how it pans out. So, gentlemen, I'm going to have to start rounding out here, but really quick, we'll just go down the line. Any final thoughts that you may have? And also, if you have like a recommendation of something you think people should check out, whether that be like a book, a video, a website, an app, anything that you think might be useful for people, feel free to toss that in as well. In terms of my final thoughts, again, we're seeing the cracks, or rather, we've been seeing the cracks for a long time. But it's refreshing to see other people go, huh, that doesn't quite make sense. It seems like something's odd there, because that's an opportunity. That's an opportunity to discuss. And you don't even have to necessarily go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole right away. But when people start noticing that stuff, you can start basically the discussions around money that you began to learn as you got into Bitcoin, the rabbit holes that it led you down. You can start with those discussions and then eventually get to Bitcoin. You don't have to go there right away. Single step is all you need when you get started on your journey. So, and in terms of any recommendations I might have, just because I was talking to him today, I'm going to recommend Eric Yakes wrote an excellent book. It's called The Seventh Property. It is very, very good. The Seventh Property, it's called Bitcoin and the Monetary Revolution. It goes a lot into depth in regards to monetary history, in regards to how the money system works today, in regards to the guts of Bitcoin and how it works, and then the kind of like the ethos and the theoretical and the improvements to society that could stem from it. I would say this is it's a more in-depth Bitcoin standard. It is probably one of the best Bitcoin books I've read. So if you haven't read it, grab a copy. It's a fantastic read. So yeah, go do that. Anyways, I'll toss it to Mick first. Any final thoughts? Anything that you didn't get to say, and any recommendations? I think I could guess where you're going to send people, but go ahead.
No, guys, it was an honor to be here. It was a lot of fun. It was great to listen to all of you. I think just keep building, right? Keep going at it. Keep creating value for the ecosystem. Obviously, Geyser is a place that's open for anyone. Yeah, I'm sort of humbled to be able to contribute to this incredible space. And yeah, I'm just let's bring all these different tools together. Really have a lot of things in my mind spinning when it comes to energy, which is such a critical thing, but I'll leave that for another time. In terms of what we're going to take people, just because this week I read Lynn Alden's piece on the what caused the financial crisis, I'd really recommend giving that a read, because it just really breaks down why shit is breaking down. So yeah, give that a read, and it'll help you get up to date with what's going on. Yeah, so I'll leave it to that. It's getting a bit late here, so I'll let you guys get on with it.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it, man. Anant, how about yourself? Any final thoughts, recommendations? Go ahead.
Yeah, I would obviously take this time to request people and shell Keeper. So Keeper is in beta right now, but I would request you guys to go and try it out, give feedback. We have a bunch of integration with a lot of signing devices. It's all open, as in you can interact with any signing device you want. You can carry your multisig somewhere else. We have recently even integrated buys into it, so you can actually buy Bitcoin directly into your cold storage. So we want people to try these things, these features out, and give us feedback. So yeah, that would be wonderful if you could do that. So yeah, that's Keeper in front of you. It's a multi-sig secure wallet. We are working a lot on privacy. You can connect to your own node. You have Tor connection that you can enable. A lot more coming in the privacy space. You take some management and some really interesting stuff, which I want to go into right now. Yeah, inheritance support, right, like rounds it off altogether, because if it is generational wealth, you want to protect it for generations, not just for yourself. So that's essentially the product, which I would again request you guys to try it out and send feedback. You just shake the app and it gives you a form to send a feedback to the developers. So that would be really nice. I would also kind of just take a minute to talk about Bitcoin for India. So yes, that's a community thing I'm also involved in, like the grassroots piece. So that is another thing you guys should look into. This is a Bitcoin only conference that we held last year, and again this year we'll be holding another Bitcoin only conference in India. So that's again our contribution to the community. So any help there, any recommendations, any suggestions, that would be really amazing. Yeah.
Awesome.
So if you want to have an impact, Bitcoin impact, and you have 1.4 billion people ready to listen, then there's no better place, right? So yeah, look at the product, look at the community, help out, spread the word. That's it. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Those websites, by the way, if you're listening, bitcoinkeeper.app, is that right?
That's right.
And then the website, Bitcoin, the number 4, India.org. So if you want to check out either of those, you can find them. Awesome. And Nolan, I'll let you have the final words here. Final thoughts, recommendations. Go ahead.
Come join my show sometime, The Breakup. I wrote a poem where I adapted the greatest breakup song ever by Bob Dylan, You'll Go Your Way and I'll Go Mine, to Bitcoin. I just can't do what I've done before. I just can't save USD anymore. How does it go? I'm going to let bucks past, and I'll stack sats. And then time will tell just who has fell and who's been left behind. When the USD goes your way, one way, and I go mine, Bitcoin. And I'll recommend to anyone out there, the crypto couple. I don't know if you guys saw it today. Carla came up with Money, 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 the ABBA song. It's the most persuasive. I mean, I did an hour-long show this morning, or 3 shows this week about the whole thing, and she got it all in the one video. You can watch 3 hours of my content from mornings with some pretty good boards and some stuff, or you can watch her 1-minute video. That's why she's getting so much money on so many tips on Nostr, because her content is so good. So, and she will be a MC and have, so you'll see her all day on May 19th, the second day of the show. She and Walker, her husband, will be the MCs that day. She'll also be on a panel about this whole world of how royalties and content creators and how all that stuff starts mixing together and all that kind of stuff at Bitcoin 2023 in Miami, May 18th to 20th, the biggest Bitcoin show in the world, sponsored, hosted by Bitcoin Magazine. Everybody come. It's going to be a great time.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm excited to get down there. It's going to be a lot of fun. I have no idea what I'm doing yet, but maybe you could send me a message about that. I have no idea what.
Yeah, I think I got you on. There is a bunch of sessions on education. Mm-hmm. So we've got Saifadian, who's going to be with Corey DeAngelis, who's like a big organizer for charter schools. So it's just about systems and how to learn. And what I'm trying to set up in that morning is that actually Bitcoin meetups are the greatest financial literacy education platform that's ever been created. Because my only thing about charter schools and all that is making the parents the client, right? That's good, but you still need parents. You still need two really good parents, and that's great. A lot of people have that. But ultimately, if we're going to get anywhere in society, we actually need a system that puts the students for once and for all as the actual client. And of course, in our system, the government is the client, so that's the one they're all trying to appeal to. So that doesn't work. And I like the idea of this charter system. It's great. It's going to go somewhere. But there's still one level left. So you got to come help deliver that point of view. So I think that's where I have you. And I think it's going to be also, you know, just sort of like a lot of what you do in this like reading list type of stuff. Like here's things that taught me a lot. So I want to be able to put a few folks like you who are professional educators in the space that know about meetups and that can bring that whole meetup culture to the forefront. Because I do think that Bitcoin meetups are an innovation in education and are actually the next level of how we're going to influence the world, right? The energy stuff is like we did the Wall Street thing. We're going to keep doing that. We got the energy thing coming, but there's another thing coming next, and it's education. And so we want to have some good content around that. Trying to get Governor DeSantis to lead that session in the morning, only because, not about his Bitcoin stuff, he made financial literacy mandatory for high schoolers to graduate from Florida high school. So we want to highlight that as a great thing. And you know, he's got some other thoughts on Bitcoin. He's, you know, he might run for president. So we're trying to get we got Vivek Ramaswamy coming to anyone who's running for president. We think, come and tell us about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
If you've got other stuff there too, we want to hear about it. I've been after RFK Jr., who's also running now.
Interesting.
It'd be great to get him orange pilled. So we're doing our best.
Orange pilling presidents. Awesome. All right, gentlemen. I'm going to say a huge thank you. Thank you so much for being here. It was a blast. You're all welcome back anytime. And everybody watching, make sure you go follow them. All their Twitter handles are listed in the show notes down below. So guys, thank you so much. Have a wonderful Friday and a great St. Patrick's Day.
Thanks, guys.
Likewise. Thank you so much,
Bye.
guys.
Had a great time, everyone. Thanks.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Of course, we were talking about the Bitcoin conference in Miami. That's coming up quick. We're like 2 months out now. And so that is happening. Miami Beach, Florida on May 18th through 20th. Yeah, tickets go up in regular intervals in terms of price. So if you haven't got tickets already, snag them as early as you possibly can. That will be helpful for you. Nonetheless, you can head to b.tc/conference and you can use code BTCSessions for 10% off your tickets, which can be helpful. If you're unsure if you're going, I'd say it's safer to grab a ticket earlier and then just resell it before the conference, which shouldn't be a problem if you need to. And yeah, that's that. Also, while in Miami, if you're down there early, I'm running my cold card workshop. It is on May 17th. That's a Wednesday, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. We're going deep dive into this thing. So that's going to be like very beginner stuff, getting the thing set up, doing transactions, backing up, restoring it, all that kind of stuff. But then we're also going to dive into the advanced features of it. We're going to be diving into BIP85, all these different like account systems. We're going to be doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And so you'll learn not just the basics, but you'll learn about some of the advanced features that some people don't even know exist with the cold card. And there's a lot. So you will walk out of this thing being a pro star with your cold card. You can grab tickets on my website, btcsessions.ca. It's over on the right-hand side under in-person workshops, and you'll find the Miami event there. And I think that's it. Yeah. With that, thank you guys so much for being here. Like, subscribe, share, all that helps. You can hit up the previously mentioned sponsors, HodlHodl, CoinKite, Nunchuk, Start9. You can grab tickets for the conference. Or if you really liked what you saw, you can drop a Bitcoin tip at my Strike page. You don't need Strike to use it. Just head there, type in any amount, hit the tip button. You'll see a Lightning invoice. And if you choose, you can tap to the right. You'll see a regular Bitcoin QR code. With that, I'm out. Have yourselves a wonderful day or evening, wherever you may be. See you guys next time for your daily session.
We have BTC sessions. Bitcoin is FU money. You can't stop it. Get yourself some Bitcoin and hold it yourself. Peer-to-peer exchange. You know, people are gonna organically come to it and gravitate towards it, especially in the world we're living in now. It's incredible. It's a great tool, and I can't wait to see it proliferate everywhere.
HodlHodl the Bitcoin.